Movie begins by setting the scene in the year 2025, a time when Earth has fallen under complete alien control. The aliens have not only taken over the government, but have also constructed 500-meter-high walls between cities, effectively eliminating any semblance of human freedom. People of Earth are now nothing more than tools for the aliens' purposes. The concept of freedom has become obsolete, and the population is left with no choice but to abide by the new alien order. In this dystopian world, one man named Will is determined to cross these barriers. His son was left behind in another city when the walls were erected, and Will is willing to risk everything to reunite with him. The only way to cross these heavily guarded boundaries is through illegal means, and Will finds himself at the mercy of smugglers who transport people across the borders in dangerous conditions. The scene opens with Will being loaded onto a truck by a smuggler. The smuggler covers Will with layers of ice to avoid detection by alien scanners. The truck starts moving towards the city boundary, but just before it crosses, a bomb planted in the truck explodes. Will barely escapes the burning wreckage, but is soon arrested by the authorities. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Will's wife, Katie, is shown struggling to acquire insulin from a black market dealer. In this new world order, the aliens have banned essential medicines like insulin, which are crucial for human survival. The aliens' goal is to weed out the weak, leaving only the fittest to survive. Katie, desperate to save her diabetic daughter, offers a bottle of liquor in exchange for insulin, but the black market dealer gives her expired insulin. Furious at being deceived, Katie pulls out a gun, causing panic among the people around her. Guns are banned for civilians, and if an alien drone spotted her, it would mean instant death. Katie narrowly escapes detection and returns home late at night, anxious about Will, who hasn't returned yet. She can't even go out to look for him because humans are forbidden to leave their homes after dark. Just as her anxiety peaks, Katie's sister arrives, informing her that her daughter's health is deteriorating rapidly, and she too needs insulin. Unfortunately, Katie is out of insulin, and the only person who can help is Will. Determined to find Will, Katie risks her life by venturing out into the city at night. She questions Will's old friends about his whereabouts. No one knows where he is. On her way back home, she encounters an alien drone. Just as she braces for the worst, she manages to hide under a military truck. Luck is on her side as the drone, which is part of the military convoy, moves away with the truck, leaving Katie unharmed. Following morning, Katie resumes her search for Will, checking every possible location he might be. Eventually, she heads to the hospital, which is in chaos due to the truck explosion from the previous night. Using the commotion to her advantage, Katie sneaks into the storeroom and steals some insulin. Still, there's no sign of Will, so she decides to visit Bruce, one of Will's old colleagues from his FBI days. When Katie finds Bruce, he reassures her that he will help locate Will. Meanwhile, Will, who is now in jail, learns from another prisoner that they are soon to be sent to an alien-run factory. Criminals are forced to work under brutal conditions. The thought of never seeing his family again fills Will with dread. While in jail, a group of police officers arrives, but instead of transferring all the prisoners, they only take Will. Police had discovered that Will was a former FBI agent with a stellar record. They take him to the Green Zone, a safe area reserved for the wealthy and powerful, where the aliens' influence is minimal. Here, Will is introduced to a man named Snyder, a high-ranking official in Los Angeles. Snyder, well aware of Will's background as an exceptional FBI agent, offers him a deal. He wants Will to work for the authorities by hunting down members of the Resistance, a group of rebels fighting against the alien regime. In return, Snyder promises Will protection for his family and access to the basic amenities that are now luxuries in this dystopian world. Snyder also informs Will that if he refuses, his family will be sent to work in the alien factories on the moon. The offer weighs heavily on Will's mind. Snyder takes him to a window where they can see a rocket being launched. This rocket is taking a group of people to the moon, where they will be forced to work in alien factories. Snyder makes it clear that Will's family could be next, if he doesn't comply. After returning home, Will informs Katie about Snyder's offer. Katie is furious at the idea of Will working for the authorities. considering them traitors who have sided with the aliens. She vehemently opposes the idea, not wanting to be known as the wife of a traitor. Despite her objections, Will feels cornered, and ultimately agrees to the deal. The next morning, Snyder arrives at their home unannounced, trying to convince Katie to let Will work with him. He promises her that if Will cooperates, their family will benefit from 24/7 security, the best education for their children, good food, nice clothes, and all the luxuries they could want in this new world. Snyder even offers to reopen the park that the aliens had closed, knowing it was important to Katie. Her resolve begins to waver as she considers the safety and well-being of her family. Will, desperate to find his missing son, asks Snyder if he can help locate him. Snyder assures Will that he will do everything in his power to reunite him with his son, which further convinces Will to agree to work for him. Meanwhile, Katie meets with Bruce and informs him that Will has agreed to work for the authorities. It is at this point that we learn Katie is actually a member of the Resistance, the very group that Will has been tasked with hunting down. She is part of the rebellion fighting against the alien occupation, a secret she has kept from Will. Will's first task is to find the person responsible for planting the bomb in the truck he was using to escape. As Will dives into his investigation, Katie continues her clandestine activities with the Resistance. She visits a warehouse where her lost son's belongings are stored, reminiscing about the time before the alien occupation. The weight of the past and her current reality overwhelms her. One day, while at work, Will catches the man who planted the bomb. He brings him in for questioning, and while at the police station, Will encounters an old colleague from the FBI. Colleague has been imprisoned for some time and pleads with Will to help him get out. Will tries to negotiate his release with his superior, but she refuses. Will, feeling a sense of obligation, promises to look after his colleague's family. After work, Will goes to his colleague's house, but to his horror, he finds that the man's wife and children are missing. Panicked, Will rushes home, where he finds them safe, having been taken in by Katie. Knowing that they need to protect his colleague's family from being sent to the alien factories, Will takes them to a man who forges documents and creates a new identity for them. Back home, Will tells Katie that he has captured the bomber and is now close to finding the rebel leader, a man named Zira. He believes that once Snyder helps him find their son, he can quit this dangerous job. Katie listens in silence, her mind racing with the implications of Will's action. She knows that if Will catches Zira, the Resistance will be severely crippled. Later, Katie meets with the Resistance leader Alex and informs him of Will's progress. Alex reassures her that the man Will captured was not from their group and they are still safe. However, he instructs Katie to be vigilant. As Will continues his investigation, he learns from his superior that the bomber has given up crucial information about his rebel group. The group has been captured, and they are being sent to the moon to work in the alien factory. Will's superior expresses disdain for the rebels, questioning why they would risk their lives for a hopeless cause. She reminds Will of how quickly the aliens dismantled Earth's advanced security systems and installed their own, implying that resistance is futile. Despite his growing doubts, Will continues his work, visiting the site where the rebels were captured. To his dismay, he finds that several rebels chose to take their own lives rather than be captured. The next morning, a new broadcast from the Resistance leader, Zira, is heard across Los Angeles. Zira's voice calls out to the people, urging them to join the fight against the alien oppressors. The police quickly track the transmission to its source, a building where the broadcast was being made. The man responsible for the broadcast barely escapes, but not before Will's son, Bram, records the transmission and hides the tapes. Meanwhile, Katie is out on her first mission with the Resistance. Their target is a food truck operated by the authorities. During the operation, one of Katie's comrades is injured. As she tries to help him, Bruce, another member of the Resistance, shoots the injured man, killing him. Katie is shocked and horrified by Bruce's actions, unable to comprehend why he would kill their own comrade. Distraught and in a state of shock, Katie returns home. She locks herself in the bathroom, overwhelmed by the events of the day. She desperately wiping the blood of her comrade from her clothes. She's panicking, overwhelmed by the reality of the situation. Meanwhile, police, accompanied by Will, arrive at the crime scene. They immediately begin investigating the dead man's identity. After a short investigation, they arrest the man's parents for the crime. Cruel injustice, as they had no knowledge of their son's activities. Among the crowd of onlookers, Bruce watches silently. He immediately relays the news of the parents' arrest to Annex, the leader of the rebel group. Annex remains calm and dismisses the news, noting that the parents didn't know their son was involved with their rebel organization, so they pose no threat to the group. There is no immediate concern for the rebels' safety. Still troubled by the situation, Bruce leaves to meet Katie. When Katie sees him, she demands answers, asking why Bruce killed their comrade. Bruce replies with an air of guilt and sorrow, explaining that the comrade would have suffered endless torture at the hands of the police. By killing him, Bruce believed he was sparing him from a much worse fate. Katie is conflicted, but her anger soon shifts, as Bruce tells her that the comrade's parents have now been arrested. Bruce explains that he plans to gather more information from Will about the investigation and what the parents might reveal under pressure. Meanwhile, Will's son, Brian, has ventured into a dangerous part of the city, one enclosed by the alien-constructed wall that separates the population. He's risked his safety to help his friend's brother, hoping to uncover something valuable or even life-saving on the other side of the wall. His friend tells him that the wall is not just a barrier, but a potential passageway to other parts of the city few people know about. As Will's team continues conducting raids across the city, they target suspected rebel hideouts. They soon arrive at the home of the recently killed comrade and uncover a stockpile of rebel weapons. This discovery alarms the rebel group, and they quickly confront Katie about it, blaming her for their exposure. They threaten her, warning that if Will doesn't return the confiscated weapons, they will exact revenge on her family. Katie, deeply worried, remains calm, knowing that her primary concern is protecting her family, not the rebels' agenda. That same night, Katie secures permission to reopen her bar, with the help of Snyder, collaborator with the alien regime. She is strategically aligning herself with the powerful in order to keep her family safe, though it means working with the very people oppressing her. The bar's reopening is a moment of celebration for the community, and a party is thrown. Snyder himself makes an appearance, and Katie's resentment toward Will intensifies. She is angry that Will continues to work for the aliens, feeling as though he has betrayed their cause and their family. She confronts Will at home later, urging him to quit his job, but Will refuses. He insists that he cannot leave his position until their son, Brian, is safely found. Tension between them grows, and it becomes clear that they are on opposite sides of this war. Will returns to his office the next day, where his boss informs him of the growing threat posed by rebel groups. She shows him evidence that there isn't just one rebel group, but many, all operating within Los Angeles. If they were to unite, the results could be catastrophic for the city, potentially sparking an all-out war with the alien forces. She warns Will that if this war begins, the aliens will not hesitate to destroy the entire city, and that includes Will's family. At this point, Will is unaware that his wife, Katie, is secretly involved with the rebels. She is part of their plan to dismantle the occupation, and that very night, she begins putting her plan into motion. She arranges for her children to be sent away from the house, and signals her rebel contacts by turning on the streetlights, indicating it's time for the next phase of her plan. Katie sets fire to her own home, staging an emergency. She calls the police, and when Will and his boss arrive to investigate, they are suspicious. Will is distraught over the fire, but his boss, Phyllis, is more concerned about how it started and whether there is more going on beneath the surface. Phyllis grows increasingly suspicious of Katie and begins to consider the possibility that she might be feeding information to the rebel. However, for the time being, she keeps these suspicions to herself, though her distrust is palpable. Meanwhile, Will's son Brian is continuing his journey beyond the wall, exploring the Forbidden Zone. He soon realizes that the area is not inhabited by people, but instead used as a massive storage area for the aliens. He sees large quantities of food, supplies, and materials, luxuries that people within the city are desperate for. Brian is both shocked and angered by this discovery.